In July 2021, the Department of State Services raided Sunday Igboho's Ibadan residence at 1 a.m. They destroyed property, killed his dogs, and nearly arrested him. He fled to Benin Republic. He spent 14 months in a Cotonou prison. He was convicted of illegal weapons possession by a court outside Nigeria. He had positioned himself as the voice of Yoruba sovereignty, a man the Nigerian state treated as a criminal, whose followers called him a freedom fighter, whose presence in Nigeria the security establishment had tried to eliminate. On Saturday, July 12, 2026, the day after 44 Oyo school pupils and teachers were rescued after 56 days in captivity, Igboho issued a press statement from his media office in Ibadan. In it, he praised President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Minister of Defense, the Inspector General of Police, the National Security Advisor, and specifically by name, the Department of State Services for their smooth teamwork in securing the children's freedom. While everyone is reading this as a man of conscience congratulating the government on a relief-filled day, nobody is asking the question that makes this statement analytically extraordinary. Why does Sunday Igboho, who was raided, exiled, convicted, and treated as a threat to state security, describe himself as part of a we committed to the Southwest security alongside the same agencies that pursued him? And what political architecture explains how a man in that position can operate freely in Ibadan while the legal proceedings from 2021 have never been publicly resolved? Before we go further, if you're new here, this channel exists for one reason: to give Nigerians the political analysis mainstream media won't. Hit subscribe and stay with me. This gets deeper.
The statement issued by Sunday Igboho's media office on Saturday, July 12, 2026, is a formal public communication from a man who has had one of the most turbulent relationships with the Nigerian security establishment of any public figure in the Southwest's democratic history. Its language is measured, institutional, and entirely consistent with a government information release. He praised President Tinubu by name, saying, "Since the day the pupils were abducted, Tinubu has spared no effort to ensure their release." He praised the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu, the military, the National Security Advisor, and the DSS by name and role for their smooth teamwork. He explained the no ransom position as a deliberate government policy decision to discourage criminal enterprise, saying that yielding to the kidnappers' demands, including the reported request for the release of detained terrorists, would have emboldened criminal groups and further financed violent activities. He used the phrase highly wired diplomacy, intelligence-driven tactics to describe the military's rescue approach, and he closed with the sentence, "The federal government's current synergy with local security organizations to confront criminals in communities will continue unabated, as we are absolutely committed to exploring all legal means to create conducive environments for farmers and inhabitants of rural communities in the Southwest." He also commiserated with the family of teacher Michael Oyedokan, who was killed during the abduction, the one victim whose fate during 56 days of captivity did not end in freedom. Oyedokan's death, confirmed by Tinubu's own statement which pledged justice for his family, is the human cost of the crisis that no political analysis of the rescue's aftermath can allow to be buried beneath the commendations and the institutional praise. The rescue of 44 abducted pupils and teachers from Orire LGA was confirmed on July 10, 2026, in a post on the verified X account of Presidential Advisor Bayo Onanuga. Finally, all the kidnapped pupils and teachers in Orire, Oyo have been rescued by our security agencies. The Army subsequently confirmed that the rescue followed a coordinated operation involving the Nigerian Army, the police, and intelligence support from the DSS, with 8 suspects arrested and transferred to DSS custody, and a number of others described as neutralized. The presidency specifically stated that no ransom was paid and no detained terrorist was released in exchange for the victims. The victims had been held for 56 days inside the Old Oyo National Park, a vast forested area spanning approximately 2,500 square kilometers across 10 LGAs in Oyo State, following a coordinated attack on 3 schools in Orire on May 15, 2026.
Understanding the institutional significance of Igboho's statement requires establishing precisely what the 2021 DSS raid represented in legal and constitutional terms. The DSS raid on his Ibadan residence in July 2021 followed weeks of political tension, during which Igboho had led coordinated eviction actions against Fulani herders in Yoruba communities, actions that drew massive popular support from Southwest residents, but that the federal government characterized as capable of precipitating ethnic conflict. The DSS charged that Igboho was stockpiling weapons. After the raid, he fled to Benin Republic. Nigerian authorities requested his extradition. Beninois courts declined to extradite him but convicted him of illegal entry and weapons possession, sentencing him before eventually releasing him.
His return to Nigeria, which he has now publicly acknowledged by operating from a media office in Ibadan, was never accompanied by a formal public announcement of case resolution from either the DSS or the Office of the Attorney General. No court has publicly stated that the Nigerian legal proceedings against him have been concluded, withdrawn, or resolved through any formal mechanism. During the 56-day Oyo kidnapping crisis, Igboho's security outfit, a private security force he maintains, entered the Old Oyo National Park and engaged the kidnapping group in a gun battle. The Oyo State Police subsequently stated there was no evidence linking his team to any successful rescue outcome. The Army's official rescue announcement made no reference to Igboho's involvement. In the constitutional and legal framework governing security operations in Nigeria, private security forces do not have the authority to conduct armed operations against designated criminal or terrorist groups. That authority is vested in the federal security agencies, the Army, the police, the DSS, and in Amotekun, which operates under state legislative authority with defined parameters. Igboho's team operates outside all of those frameworks. Its entrance into the Old Oyo National Park during the crisis was legally uncoordinated with formal security operations, however well motivated it may have been. Igboho's public statement, praising the formal agencies and using we language about the security mission, performs a post-facto institutional alignment between his informal operation and the formal rescue outcome that the formal agency's own communications do not acknowledge.
The presidency's statement that no ransom was paid and no detained terrorist was released is now the official government position on the rescue's terms. Igboho's statement directly validates and amplifies that position by explaining the reasoning behind it, a reasoning he presents as self-evident: paying ransom would embolden criminals and fund further operations. That reasoning is analytically sound and is consistent with established counter-terrorism policy in multiple jurisdictions globally. What the no-ransom position cannot fully account for, given what Makinde had previously revealed, that the government was in communication with the abductors and was, quote, bearing the burden, is how a negotiated communication process produced a rescue without any quid pro quo. The presidency's position is that the military operation was the outcome, not a negotiated exchange. Igboho's statement reinforces that. Whether the complete operational picture, what was discussed with the abductors, what if anything changed their position, what triggered the final rescue window, will be fully disclosed in the expected operational briefing remains to be seen. Igboho's statement does not exist in a political vacuum. It is a carefully calibrated public positioning act that serves multiple simultaneous strategic purposes. First, it formally distances him from the Yoruba sovereignty movement's confrontational posture toward the Nigerian federal government at a specific moment, the week of a successful rescue operation that the Tinubu administration has framed as evidence of its security capability. By praising the rescue publicly and specifically, Igboho is signaling to the Nigerian security establishment, to the political class, and to his own followers that his operational posture toward the federal government has changed, that the man who led herder evictions and was raided by the DSS is now in a cooperative relationship with the same agencies. Second, the statement establishes Igboho as an insider commentator on the rescue's operational details, specifically the no-ransom position and the terrorist exchange refusal, information that implies a level of access or coordination that ordinary citizens and ordinary civil society figures do not have. Third, the we language, we are absolutely committed, performs a formal insertion into the Southwest Security Governance Framework that, if sustained, positions Igboho as a recognized non-state security partner rather than an extrajudicial actor.
The Tinubu administration's political interest in Igboho's commendation statement is substantial and specific. Igboho commands a significant and loyal following in the Yoruba political community, particularly in Oyo, Ondo, and Ekiti states, and among the Southwest's rural and semi-urban populations who supported his herder eviction actions in 2021 as a response to legitimate security grievances. Those communities overlap significantly with the electorate that Governor Makinde's PDP and the opposition coalition are targeting in the 2027 Southwest political competition. A public statement from Igboho praising Tinubu's security management, delivered the day after an emotionally charged rescue of 44 school children, is not simply a civic commendation. It is a political endorsement from a figure with demonstrated mass mobilization capacity among precisely the Southwest constituencies where the 2027 competition is most intense. The Tinubu administration did not ask Igboho to issue this statement, but it benefits directly from its content, its timing, and its specific language. The rescue announcement's political geography is analytically significant. Onanuga, Tinubu's presidential advisor, made the announcement. Tinubu's own statement praised the security agencies and pledged justice for Michael Oyodokun's family. Igboho's statement praised Tinubu. Governor Makinde, the PDP governor who managed the 56-day crisis from the state level, who imposed the curfew, who addressed Very Dark Man's protest, who made the personal vow to bring the children home, is notably absent from Igboho's specific praise list. Makinde's name does not appear in Igboho's statement. He praised Tinubu, the Minister of Defense, the IGP, the NSA, and the DSS. The Oyo state government is not mentioned. That omission is analytically significant in the 2027 political context. Igboho's statement has given the federal government, specifically the Tinubu administration, exclusive credit for the rescue in the public statement of one of the Southwest's most politically influential non-governmental figures, while leaving the PDP state government's 56-day crisis management entirely unacknowledged. Now, if what I just told you surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know what you think before we get to the part that changes everything.
We asked what role, if any, Igboho's security outfit played in the intelligence that led to the successful rescue. The available documented evidence does not provide a definitive answer. The Army's official statement does not reference Igboho's team's involvement, and the police said there was no evidence linking his team to any successful rescue outcome. What the documented evidence does establish is a chronological sequence. Igboho's team entered the Old Oyo National Park and engaged the kidnapping group in a gun battle before the formal rescue was completed. Whether that engagement changed the tactical position of the kidnappers, revealed their location or composition to formal security agencies, or was genuinely disconnected from the eventual rescue is not publicly confirmed. What Igboho's specific post-rescue knowledge claims suggest, the no-ransom position, the terrorist exchange demand, the highly wired intelligence tactics, is that he had a post-rescue briefing or real-time information channel that gave him access to operational details beyond what was in the public rescue announcement. The most analytically conservative interpretation is that his information came from a coordination relationship with the formal security agencies that was not publicly disclosed during the crisis itself. Teacher Michael Oyedokun was killed by his abductors during the 56 days that his colleagues and students were held captive. His name appears in Igboho's statement, in Tinubu's statement, and in multiple media accounts of the rescue. He is the human cost of the crisis that political analysis must not allow to be absorbed entirely into the rescue celebration. His family, who waited 56 days and learned at the end that he had been killed during captivity, deserves the justice that both Tinubu and Igboho's statements have now publicly pledged. The accountability for his death through the prosecution of the 8 suspects in DSS custody and through any broader investigation of the Ansaru-linked network that conducted the attack is the governance commitment that must outlast the political statements issued in the rescue's immediate aftermath. The test of that commitment will be whether Michael Oyedokun's case produces prosecutorial action that is publicly reported in the months following the rescue, or whether his name fades from official communications once the political moment of the rescue has passed. Igboho's statement's closing commitment to creating conducive environments for farmers and inhabitants of rural communities in the Southwest connects his post-rescue positioning directly to the most persistent and least resolved security challenge in the Southwest: the insecurity of farming communities, rural dwellers, and forest-adjacent populations who have been disproportionately affected by kidnapping, herder-farmer conflict, and criminal network activity across Oyo, Ondo, Kwara, and Osun states. His statement frames this as a joint mission between himself and the federal government security apparatus, which, if it represents a genuine operational arrangement rather than a political performance, would be the most significant formal integration of a previously extrajudicial actor into the Southwest security governance framework since Amotikun's establishment in 2020.
For Yoruba diaspora communities in the United Kingdom and the United States who invest in Oyo State's agricultural sector, in Orire's communities, and in Southwest educational infrastructure, the Orire abduction crisis created a specific security concern that the rescue has now partially addressed. Igboho's statement, framing his own security outfit's operations as part of a broader commitment to creating conducive environments for farmers and rural communities, is directly relevant to the diaspora's investment calculus, a Southwest that has a functioning informal-formal security coordination framework in which both state security agencies and community security actors are working towards the same goal, is a Southwest that offers a better investment environment for diaspora-funded agricultural and educational projects than one in which informal actors and formal agencies are in conflict. Igboho's statement is performing exactly that coordination narrative, whether or not the operational reality behind it fully matches the language. Igboho's 14 months in Cotonou's Crepuscule prison and his subsequent return to Nigeria involved a diplomatic dimension that was never fully publicly disclosed. The Beninois government's decision not to extradite him to Nigeria, despite the Nigerian government's formal request, was a significant diplomatic outcome. His eventual return to Nigeria without formal extradition and his current operational statement issuing press statement from Ibadan suggests that the diplomatic channel between Nigeria and Benin Republic on his status has been resolved through a bilateral understanding that was not publicly announced. For international observers of Nigerian governance, including human rights organizations that followed his case and the Amnesty International calls for his safe release, his current public rehabilitation and his specific praise of the DSS represents a personal political trajectory that raises questions about the terms on which his return was negotiated and what obligations those terms created. The most analytically honest version of the straightforward reading of Igboho's statement begins with the most obvious explanation: a man who cares deeply about the Yoruba people's security, who has spent years advocating for the protection of Southwest farming communities, and who followed the 56-day crisis of children in captivity with the same grief as every other Nigerian, chose the moment of their rescue to publicly express relief and commend the security actors who brought them home. The political analysis of strategic repositioning, coordinated messaging, and legal status management may be correct, and it is worth examining, but the possibility that a human being expressed genuine gratitude on the day that 44 children and their teachers were freed is not one that analytical rigor requires dismissing. Both things can be true simultaneously. The statement can be a genuine human response to a relief-filled moment, and also a strategically calibrated political communication. Those two things are not mutually exclusive in the statement of a political actor.
Misconceptions in public discourse. The first misconception is that Igboho's praise of Tinubu represents a reversal of his political positions. His statement does not endorse Tinubu as a political candidate, does not withdraw any previous statements about Yoruba sovereignty, and does not address the political landscape for 2027 in any direction. It praises specific security actions in a specific crisis. A political figure can praise an opponent's handling of an emergency without endorsing their governance philosophy. Those are different acts. The second misconception is that the no ransom position is definitively established. The presidency has stated no ransom was paid and no prisoner was exchanged. Igboho's statement confirms that position. But the full operational picture of how a 56-day negotiated communication process ended in a military rescue without any quid pro quo has not been publicly detailed. The official position is the most credible available account. It is also the account that governments consistently adopt in hostage rescue situations, regardless of the specific operational arrangements made. The distinction between what governments say publicly and what rescue operations require diplomatically is a documented feature of hostage resolution globally. The third misconception is that Igboho's security outfit played no role in the rescue simply because the formal agencies did not credit it. Security operations in complex terrain involving multiple actors, formal and informal, do not always produce public credit assignments that reflect the actual intelligence and operational contributions of every participant. The absence of formal credit is not the same as confirmed absence of contribution. For Southwest Nigeria, Igboho's statement and the political repositioning it represents carry a specific strategic significance that goes beyond the 2027 electoral calendar. The Southwest security ecosystem, Amutekun, informal community security organizations, the formal police and military presence, has been built around a model of layered security that combines state-authorized structures with community-endorsed informal ones. Igboho's security outfit occupies the most politically charged position in that ecosystem. It is neither formally authorized nor formally prohibited, neither officially welcomed nor officially condemned. His July 12 statement is the first time he has publicly aligned his outfit's mission with the federal government security framework using language that implies operational coordination. If that alignment is genuine and sustained, it has the potential to integrate the most effective informal security actor in the Southwest into a governance framework that reduces both the risk of uncoordinated extrajudicial action and the community relations friction that currently characterizes the formal-informal security divide. If it is performative and temporary, it will leave the same unresolved tension in place. The Southwest's strategic interest is in genuine, legally grounded, publicly accountable integration, not in political performance that produces a press release without changing the operational architecture. We asked what Igboho's current legal status in Nigeria is and whether his public rehabilitation has been accompanied by a formal legal resolution. The honest, analytical answer is that the public record does not provide a definitive answer. His 2021 Nigerian legal proceedings, the firearms charges and related matters following the DSS raid have not been formally and publicly concluded through any announced court judgment, withdrawal of charges or published settlement. His return to Nigeria from Benin Republic was not accompanied by a formal public announcement explaining the legal terms of his return. What the public record does show is that he's operating openly in Ibadan, issuing press statements and is not in detention. The most analytically coherent explanation for that operation
operational reality, in the absence of a formal legal conclusion, is a political accommodation, an informal understanding between Igboho's network and the relevant authorities that his public conduct within certain parameters will not trigger formal legal proceedings. His July 12 statement with his praise of DSS and its "we" commitment to Southwest security is best understood as a performance of compliance with whatever those parameters are. The political architecture behind it is an accommodation whose specific terms are not in the public record, and which neither Igboho nor the government has disclosed.
The long-term political impact of Ogboho's July 12 statement operates at three levels. For the Yoruba sovereignty movement, the statement represents either the pragmatic evolution of its most recognizable figure towards engagement with Nigerian state institutions, or the beginning of its most visible leader's exit from the movement's defining ideological commitments. Which of those interpretations prevails will determine whether the movement retains Igboho's credibility and audience reach as an asset or loses him to the mainstream political landscape. For the 2027 Southwest political competition, Igboho's public alignment with Tinubu's security management, delivered at the most emotionally charged moment of the year in Southwest public life, is the most politically significant thing he has done since his 2021 eviction actions. Whether it translates into active 2027 support for APC candidates against Makinde's PDP infrastructure in Oyo and other Southwest states depends on what the political arrangement behind the statement's terms actually requires him to do. For Nigeria's security governance architecture in the Southwest, the question of whether informal community security actors can be integrated into the formal framework in a way that is legally grounded, publicly accountable, and operationally effective is the structural governance question that the Oreri crisis and its aftermath have placed on the table, and that Igboho's statement has made more urgent rather than less. We opened with a raid at 1 a.m. and a man in exile. We arrived at a press statement issued from an Ibadan media office praising the agency that conducted that raid, using the word "we" about the federal government's security commitment. That journey, from the July 2021 DSS raid to the July 2026 commendation, is either the story of a political pragmatist who has correctly read the new landscape, or the story of a political accommodation whose specific terms have not been disclosed to the public that Igboho has spent 5 years claiming to speak for. The 44 children and their teachers are free. Michael Oyedokun's family deserves justice and deserves to see the 8 suspects in DSS custody prosecuted in a court of law. Those are the most important human facts in this story, and no political analysis of Igboho's statement should displace them from the center of what Wednesday's rescue actually produced. The political analysis exists because Igboho's statement raises questions about his legal status, about the coordination between his security outfit and the formal rescue, about what "we" means in the Southwest security landscape for 2027, that are genuine accountability questions for a democratic public that deserves answers. Drop your analysis in the comments. Do you read Igboho's July 12 statement as a genuine political realignment, a tactical rescue moment response, or something whose terms have not yet been publicly disclosed? And what would you need to see in the next 30 days to know which reading is correct? If this analysis gave you clarity, share it with one person who needs to understand what's really happening. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.